During 2019, Bradford Live started the process of redeveloping Bradford's former Odeon building. The first step was to carefully remove the huge concrete and steel cinema structures inserted at the end of the 1960s, revealing the extent of the huge auditorium for the first time in 50 years. This work was funded by the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, and it was also captured by time-lapse cameras funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund as part of a programme of heritage activity which will share the history and redevelopment of one of Bradford's most loved buildings with the people of the city. But first, a bit of history. Television, then bingo, had increasingly affected the fortunes of cinemas by the end of 1968. Audiences had dwindled significantly, and many smaller picture houses closed for good, whilst others survived as bingo halls. Larger theatres, such as Bradford's Gaumont, suffered the indignity of audiences of a few hundred people scattered within auditoriums that used to be filled with thousands of picturegoers in one sitting. The Rank organisation were able to address this unfortunate situation by subdividing some of its larger cinemas into two smaller auditoriums in a conversion programme known as twinning, and the Gaumont in Bradford was one of those theatres selected. The Gaumont closed on Saturday the 30th of November 1968 for its internal redevelopment that was estimated to cost somewhere around £370,000 and was expected to take 7 months to complete. The twinning process usually subdivided auditoriums at balcony level to create two cinemas, one on top of the other. The Gaumont in Bradford was large enough to present a unique result and became Rank's first cinema to host two smaller screens side by side at balcony level. A new top rank club for bingo players could also be positioned below them at stalls level. Bradford's original Odeon cinema on Manchester Road had been demolished in the summer of 1969, and when the former Gaumont reopened its doors as a twin cinema that August, it did so as the city's new Odeon. The removal of 1969 steel and concrete began in January 2019. The first job was to remove the wooden structures that had created seating platforms for bingo players over the steppings of the new Victoria's rear stalls. The stage extension, fitted in 1969, was also removed. You can see the concrete semicircle floor of the new Vic's orchestra pit, and the Wurlitzer was also housed here. Sadly, the historic stage had become far too saturated by years of water ingress from the fly tower above, as demonstrated by Lee Craven here, and it couldn't be retained, but its removal presented an entry point for the demolition excavators required to dismantle the 1969 subdivisions. First, an opening in the rear wall of the stage needed to be made. This first piece of time-lapse camera footage was funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. It shows the opening being created and also the first time a demolition excavator entered the building. This will also be used as a get-in door when the building operates in the future. Meanwhile, thermalite blocks that had subdivided some of the spaces at twin cinema level were dismantled by hand and dropped down into the former top rank club. The blocks were then scooped up and taken outside. Here you can see the concrete floor of Odeon 2 being taken down from the steel frame that had propped up the twin cinemas.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning like a mechanised version of Jurassic.
Yeah. Elsewhere in the building, workmen were removing traces of the 1969 works via more manual techniques. The former New Victoria Cafe, later the Odeon's licensed bar. A final glimpse of Odeon 2. This piece of time-lapse camera footage provides a fantastic visual document of the removal of the steel structures. It is also invaluable because only the contractors were allowed to be inside the building during these particular works. Here you can see the upper balcony of the Gaumont starting to reappear. This footage indicates just how dusty it could get as the 1969 concrete was being smashed away. You could still taste it the following day if you didn't wear a face mask. We are now looking at both of the Odeon twin cinemas from the rear of the upper balcony. A small section of the dividing wall had been removed. You can see the demolition excavator breaking down the dividing wall. Inside the smaller Odeon 1, a sweeping glance into Odeon 2, and a final view of its seating area. The removal of the thermalite blocks continually exposed hidden parts of the original theatre, the cinema box arches, and an exit from the circle balcony. The screen proscenium of Odeon 2 has now gone, and we can see an uninterrupted view of the stage area from the upper balcony. This time-lapse footage captures the final moments of Odeon 1. Beyond the section of the dividing wall still in place was a plant room behind the cinema screen. The ceiling of Odeon 2 is torn down, and you can see the steel frame of the original auditorium ceiling dome beyond the girders above. By August 2019, the demolition excavators had done their job, and we can now see the opened up auditorium space for the first time in 50 years. Although looking battered, thanks to the rough treatment of workmen back in 1969, nobody can fail to see the potential that this auditorium has to offer. And Bradford Live transforming it into a performance venue that the city can be truly proud of is the next chapter in this building's remarkable story.